Today we're going to be reviewing the new character, Xiao, which means we're going to be talking about his talents, constellations, best weapons, artifacts, team comps, and some tips for his gameplay. Timestamps will be available in the description, and if you guys are already down there, do make sure you hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell icon so you're notified for when I post a new video. And with that, let's get into it. Xiao is a 5-star polearm amino character with a very fast and very greedy playstyle. This man is quite literally leapfrogged the character. With that being said, let's talk about his talents. His Whirlwind Thrust is the name of his normal attacks. He does 6 strikes, and let me just say, the 3rd strike has my favorite animation in the game. I know it's not the most fancy thing in the world, but I don't know what it is, I just like it so much. His charge attack is an upward thrust that launches enemies up into the air, and his plunge attack has 2 strikes. One strike is on the way down, and the other one is an AoE caused upon impact. It should also be noted, Xiao does not take damage from plunge attacks. His elemental skill is called Lemnisstatic Wind Cycling. However, for the rest of the video, I will be referencing this as Lemnis Wind Cycling because I have a hard time pronouncing that. So Lemnis Wind Cycling is his elemental skill that causes Xiao to attack straight forward in any direction that he is facing. It deals amino damage to all opponents in his path, and it can be used mid-air. And for the bread and butter of this character, Xiao's elemental burst is called Bane of All Evil. Xiao puts on his Yaksha mask and receives a buff that allows for him to get off insane amounts of damage. This buff increases Xiao's jump height, his plunge attack AoE range, increases the amount of damage that he does, and converts all attack damage into amino damage, which cannot be overridden by any other elemental infusion. What this means, for example, Chongyung's elemental skill, which changes all physical damage to cryo, will not work while Xiao is in his elemental burst. As amazing as all these positive buffs are, there is still a drawback to this elemental burst, that being that the mask will drain 3 to 2% HP dependent on the level from Xiao's total health per second until the elemental burst ends or Xiao leaves the field. Moving on to Xiao's passive skills, he has Gravity Defier, which decreases the climbing stamina consumption for the party by 20%. He also has Conqueror of Evil, Tamer of Demons. While Xiao is under the effect of his elemental burst, Bane of All Evil, all damage dealt is increased by 5%, which will continue to increase every 3 seconds while Bane of All Evil is up. This maxes out at 25% damage increase by the end of his elemental burst. For the next passive, we have Dissolution Eon. Heavenfall, using Lement's Wind Cycling once, will increase the damage of the following use of the same skill by 15%. This effect lasts for 7 seconds and has a maximum of 3 stacks. Getting another stack will increase the duration of the effect. What this means is basically once you use one Lement's Wind Cycling, you should be using the next one to follow up to get the most damage out of your elemental skills. Moving on to Xiao's constellations, I'm gonna go ahead and just get this out of the way now. I honestly don't recommend going for any constellations unless you really like Xiao. Overall, his constellations send him down a path to a different kind of playstyle, which is something that I will not exactly be reviewing or talking about today, considering that we do not have him at C6. Xiao is an amazing free-to-play character, and one of the reasons that's the case is because of the fact that you don't need constellations to have consistent high damage outputs. If you are, however, in love with Xiao and love this baby Sasuke looking ass, a good stopping point for his constellations is actually Constellation 1. Constellation 1, we have Dissolution Eon, Destroyer of Worlds. This increases luminous wind cycling charges by 1. The thing that's so great about this constellation and why it's a great stopping point is, while yes, having another dash is cool as hell, the main factor here is the fact that you have another charge on your elemental skill is going to help generate more elemental orbs, which will help go towards Xiao's elemental burst. In other words, his energy recharge is going to be way better. For his second constellation, we have Annihilation Eon, Blossom of Kaliados. When in the party and not on the field, Xiao's energy recharge is increased by 25%. While this is a great constellation, if you are using Xiao, because he is kind of a greedy DPS, he is more than likely going to be on the field more than half the time. So this energy recharge, while nice to have, it's definitely not needed. It is a more quality of life constellation, that being there's not as much pressure to switch through your units as quickly, and it basically helps Xiao be interchangeable in team setups that you probably already have. His Constellation 3, Conqueror of Evil, Wrath of Deity. This increases the level of luminous wind cycling by 3, Moving on to the fourth constellation, Transcension, Extinction of Suffering. When Xiao's HP falls below 50%, he gains a 100% defense boost. While it's nice in theory and on paper to have the increased defense boost, this game is very much a DPS race, and there aren't a lot of moments where Xiao will be taking damage, and you'll see in the team composition, there are ways to mitigate him getting hit in general by simply putting a shield character onto the team. Moving on to the 5th constellation, Evolution Eon, Origin of Ignorance. This one increases his elemental burst, Bane of All Evil, by 3. And moving on to the last constellation, Conqueror of Evil, Guardian Yaksha. While under the effects of Bane of All Evil, hitting at least 2 opponents with Xiao's plunging attack will immediately grant him 1 charge of Luminous Wind Cycling, and for the next 1 second, he may use Luminous Wind Cycling while ignoring its cooldown. With this constellation, you will end up ignoring a lot of what you do with Xiao's base kit, so while yes, this is a strong constellation, this does change up his gameplay significantly, and if you like Xiao a lot, you want to see him do a lot more cool things, this definitely is the way to go. In terms of his weapons, I'm not going to be going too in depth here, but I will let you guys know kind of a default as to which weapons are probably the best on him. So of course, the weapon that came with Xiao will obviously be the best weapon for him. The Jade Spear is amazing. If you do not have the Jade Spear, a good replacement is Deathmatch. Deathmatch is a battle pass weapon, meaning you will have to pay if you do want to obtain this, but this weapon is amazing on Xiao and a decent replacement. Now onto the free to play options, we have Prototype Star Glitter, which is pretty good, and also the Black Cliff Pole. Whenever it returns, it will be back in Paimon's bargains. A little honorable mention here for you guys, the Favonius Pole is actually also really good on Xiao. Moving on to artifacts, in terms of endgame, you want to aim for 2-piece Gladiator, 2-piece Viridescent, or if you're running more of an amino build, you could go 4-piece Viridescent. If you're just starting out, the artifacts that you're going to want to aim for are 2-piece Berserker, 2-piece Sojourner. Or if you don't have any Berserker pieces, or just want to try out more energy recharge, you could go 2-piece Exile and 2-piece Sojourner. So for the main stats for your artifacts, for the sands, you're going to want to aim for attack percentage. For the cup, you're going to want to go for amino bonus damage or attack percentage. And for the crown, you're going to want to go for crit damage or energy recharge. For your substats, you're going to want to aim for attack percentage, energy recharge, crit rate, and then crit damage. Let me take a moment to wish you luck on your artifact grind. Now, in terms of a team composition, Xiao is a greedy DPS. He needs a team built around him to shine as bright as possible. You're going to want 1 battery, which means you're going to want 1 character that can build up a lot of orbs to help Xiao get his elemental burst as fast as possible. For a battery, you're going to want either Sucrose or Venti. You can also sub in any amino character that you do have, meaning Jean, or you could also sub in any character that you feel generates a decent amount of elemental orbs. As for healer, Barbara is a go-to. As depressed as she may sound now, she is a sound option. You can also use Bennett, Jean, or even Diona. For your last slot, you're going to want some support who can be useful while being off the field. One good option here is Xingqiu. Xingqiu is great for Xiao if you're able to weave in your normal attacks in between your plunges. It'll give you nice and extra damage. Xiangling is also another option. Her Pyronado and Boba are great for helping Xiao hit higher numbers. Official is also a solid option here. Oz is amazing and always great for generating elemental orbs. And last but not least, Zhang Li, the god that is meant to protect his yakshas. He is an amazing support. His shield provides the attack bonus, which can help soar your already high numbers with Xiao. Please do note, you can go ahead and shift around any characters that you do see fit and just try out who you want to use with Xiao. Some quick combat tips here for you. Xiao is all about getting his ult up and running. Something you can do that's useful that helps you charge up Xiao's ult is as soon as you slay an enemy with any character, you can pick up the orbs with Xiao to get his burst up and running as quickly as possible. Another thing of note, when you're fighting multiple enemies with Xiao, you should focus on attacking the one in the middle of as many as possible to make sure you're getting both hits off with his plunge attack. Something important to learn that will eventually come naturally to you is something called plunge cancelling. Plunge cancelling is very important for Xiao as it is the way to get the most damage out of him. It seems pretty simple, but it did take me at least a little practice to get it going. All you have to do is, as soon as you see Xiao begin to fall, you can spam the attack button and then press your jump as soon as you see Xiao hit the ground. As soon as you see Xiao halfway through his jump, you click the attack button again and rinse and repeat. The reason you're waiting until you get at least halfway up through his jump is so that you make sure you get the maximum amount of plunge damage. Another thing for you to be aware of is you can land a normal attack in between these plunges. After landing the plunge attack, allow the spamming of your attack button to actually go through and land a normal attack before you proceed to do the next plunge cancel. You can also do this with the charge attack instead for optimal damage. However, you are going to want to start your jump as soon as you see your charge attack about to land. It's a little tough to learn the timing of, but eventually in time, I'm sure you'll be able to handle it with no problem. Last but not least, probably my most important tip for Xiao here. In terms of exploration, he can recover stamina if you let go of a wall and then use your elemental skill. How cool is that, huh? Alright, that was probably the lamest thing to end on. I'm sorry. As for my personal opinion, while he may seem like he's lacking due to his complete disregard for elemental reactions being an amino character, I promise you that is not the case with this guy. Xiao is an amazingly fun character, and he would be wonders on any free-to-play account. If you have the primos, I definitely recommend rolling for him. Thank you so much, kings, queens, and royalty, for watching the video and making it this far. If you're not already, please make sure to hit that subscribe button. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next one.